Hello friends, welcome back to CS PsychoFacts, the channel where we uncover the hidden psychology behind life, success, and human behavior. Have you ever felt like life is slipping into chaos, where nothing makes sense and every day feels heavier than the last? You're not alone. In fact, this is the fundamental struggle of the human condition, balancing between chaos and order, discipline and freedom, responsibility and avoidance. The book 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson is not just another self-help manual. It is a deep psychological guide that blends science, myth, and practical wisdom into timeless lessons for living a meaningful life. Peterson, a clinical psychologist, takes us through 12 rules that may sound simple on the surface, but each carries profound insights that can reshape the way we live, think, and act. The first rule begins with something surprisingly physical: standing up straight with your shoulders back. It may sound like trivial advice, but Peterson shows us that posture is more than just body language. It is an embodied signal to yourself and to the world about who you are. In the natural world, lobsters fight for dominance, and the victorious lobster receives more serotonin, which makes it confident, resilient, and ready for future challenges. The defeated lobster, however, collapses inward, carries itself low, and radiates submission. Humans are not so different. When you carry yourself as though you are defeated, others treat you accordingly, and you begin to believe the same story about yourself. But when you stand tall, breathe deeply, and occupy space with confidence, you begin to shift your biology, your psychology, and even your opportunities. It's not magic. It's how the nervous system responds to signals of dominance and resilience. Standing tall doesn't mean arrogance, it means aligning your body with a state of readiness, openness, and strength. Life will knock you down, but if you refuse to hunch your shoulders in defeat, you are already halfway to victory. The simple act of posture becomes a foundation for a mindset of courage and competence. The second rule takes this inner responsibility further. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Most people will rush to the aid of their children, their pets, or even their friends if they are sick, but when it comes to themselves, they neglect, procrastinate, or even sabotage their own well-being. Why do we do this? Peterson suggests that it comes from a deep sense of unworthiness, guilt, or hidden self-contempt that many carry unconsciously. We punish ourselves through neglect because we secretly don't believe we deserve care. This rule is a radical shift. You must start to see yourself as valuable, as someone worthy of love and support. Imagine if you had a dear friend who was struggling. You wouldn't ignore their pain. You would encourage them, push them toward treatment, remind them of their worth. Now, apply the same compassion to yourself. You need to nourish your body with healthy food, discipline your mind with good habits, and give your future self the same respect you would give someone you truly care about. This shift in perspective transforms responsibility into self-respect, and only when you treat yourself as valuable can you shoulder the heavier responsibilities that life inevitably places upon you. The third rule moves into our relationships. Make friends with people who want the best for you. This sounds obvious, but in practice, it's incredibly hard. Many people remain in toxic friendships or destructive circles because of history, guilt, or the fear of being alone. But Peterson warns that not everyone is moving upward. Some people are on a downward spiral, and they would rather drag you with them than climb out of the pit themselves. A real friend does not resent your progress. They do not compete against you with hidden bitterness. A true ally celebrates your victories, encourages your growth, and pulls you higher. But if you are surrounded by people who subtly sabotage your efforts, who mock your ambitions, or who envy your success, they are poisoning your life more than you realize. This rule is liberating because it grants you permission to walk away. Choosing friends who genuinely want your best interest is not selfish. It is survival. The people you surround yourself with shape your destiny. Their energy, their values, and their actions inevitably become the environment that molds you. Choosing wisely is one of the most powerful psychological strategies you can adopt. The fourth rule turns inward again. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. We live in an era where comparison is constant. Social media floods us with images of people richer, fitter, or more successful. But these comparisons are illusions. You are measuring your raw, unedited life against someone else's carefully curated highlight reel. This creates despair and inadequacy because the game is rigged against you. Peterson offers an alternative. The only fair comparison is with yourself. Did you make progress compared to yesterday? Did you learn one new thing, handle one situation better, improve in one small way? Progress is personal. If you compare yourself to who you were yesterday, you gain hope and momentum. You realize growth is possible, even in tiny increments. But if you compare yourself to the world, you drown in hopelessness because someone will always seem ahead. Your path is unique. Your measurement must be personal. Success, Peterson reminds us, is not absolute. It is relative to your own starting point. The discipline of self-comparison builds a sustainable momentum that no external benchmark can undermine. The fifth rule addresses parenting, but it carries lessons for life in general. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. At first, this sounds harsh, but Peterson explains it with the clarity of a psychologist and a father. A child who is undisciplined, rude, or defiant not only irritates their parents, but will eventually be rejected by society. If even their parents cannot tolerate their behavior, the world will punish them far more severely. Many parents confuse permissiveness with kindness, allowing children to do whatever they want under the illusion of love. But this neglect produces weak, unhappy adults unprepared for the challenges of reality. Real love requires discipline. It requires setting boundaries, teaching responsibility, and correcting behavior so the child can thrive in society. This principle extends beyond parenting. It's about relationships and self-discipline as well. If you allow behaviors in yourself or in others that you secretly resent, you are planting seeds of bitterness. Correction may be uncomfortable, but it creates growth. Suppression breeds hatred. Discipline, applied with compassion, is not cruelty. It is the greatest kindness. The sixth rule demands accountability. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. It's tempting to blame governments, corporations, or society for the problems we face. But Peterson argues that the most effective starting point is always within. Are you taking responsibility for your family, your health, your daily duties? Are you paying attention to the details of your own life, or are you projecting your frustrations outward while neglecting your inner world? Chaos begins at home, in the small acts of neglect that accumulate into disorder. By setting your own house in order, even partially, you build credibility, strength, and resilience. You move from being a victim to being a leader. This does not mean ignoring injustice in the world, but it means that meaningful criticism and change must begin with self-mastery. The person who brings order into their own life has the authority to challenge disorder elsewhere. But without this personal foundation, criticism is hypocrisy. This rule is a call to radical responsibility, a reminder that the first battlefield is always within. The seventh rule elevates the conversation to the level of meaning. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Expediency is seductive. It offers quick rewards, instant gratification, and temporary relief from pain. But expedient choices often carry hidden costs. The lie that saves you from embarrassment today becomes the trap that destroys your credibility tomorrow. The reckless pleasure that feels good in the moment leaves behind emptiness and regret. Peterson argues that a meaningful life is not built on shortcuts but on sacrifice. He draws on ancient myths, religious stories, and psychological truths to show that humans are wired for purpose. Meaning sustains us when life inevitably becomes painful. When you choose to aim at something higher, at responsibility, discipline, or service, you transcend suffering. The meaningful path is not easy, but it is the only one that transforms suffering into strength. Without meaning, life is unbearable. With meaning, even the hardest trials become worth enduring. The eighth rule insists on honesty. Tell the truth, or at least, don't lie. Lies seem convenient, They smooth over awkwardness, shield us from blame, or promise us quick advantages. But lies multiply. Each falsehood demands another, until you are caught in a web that strangles both your freedom and your integrity. Peterson reminds us that when you lie, you pit yourself against reality itself, and reality eventually always wins. By contrast, truth aligns you with the structure of reality, even when it is uncomfortable. Telling the truth may cause pain in the short term, but it prevents catastrophe in the long term. Honesty builds trust, strengthens relationships, and brings inner peace because you no longer fear exposure. Living truthfully does not mean blunt cruelty. It means refusing to manipulate, deceive, or distort. Each time you speak honestly, you declare that you are strong enough to face reality. And this courage forms the bedrock of a stable life. The 9th rule turns us into listeners. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. They wait impatiently for their turn to speak, already formulating a rebuttal before the other person has even finished. But this attitude shuts down growth. Peterson argues that humility in conversation is one of the greatest psychological strengths. Every person, no matter how flawed, has fragments of knowledge you don't. By listening deeply, you gain insights you never would have discovered alone. This rule is not about passivity. It's about openness. By granting others the dignity of being heard, you enrich your own understanding. True listening disarms conflict, builds trust, and makes dialogue transformative. When you listen as though your life depends on it, you discover truths that could change everything. The 10th rule emphasizes precision. Be precise with your speech. Vague complaints like, "everything is wrong" or "life is terrible," paralyze us because they are too big to confront. But when you articulate your problems clearly, "I feel anxious because my finances are unstable," or "I am lonely because I avoid reaching out to people," suddenly the problem becomes specific, and specific problems have solutions. Precision in language forces precision in thought. When you name the monster hiding under the bed, you shrink it into something you can fight. Peterson emphasizes that precision does not mean perfection, but clarity. When you clearly identify what is wrong, you strip chaos of its power. Precise speech makes life less overwhelming because it organizes the unknown into the manageable. Words are not just sounds, they are tools of order. Speak carefully, and you will think carefully. Think carefully, and you will act wisely. The 11th rule surprises many readers. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. At first, this seems oddly specific, but Peterson uses it as a metaphor for the necessity of risk. Children, especially boys, seek out danger, challenge, and boundaries. They jump, climb, fall, and get back up again. Overprotective parents, in their attempt to shield children from harm, unintentionally cripple them by denying them resilience. Life itself is risky. To grow, one must face fear, danger, and failure. Skateboarding, with its tumbles and triumphs, becomes a symbol of how children learn courage. When you interfere, overcorrect, or bubble wrap them, you produce fragile adults incapable of handling reality. Peterson's lesson here extends to society. Strength comes from facing risk, not avoiding it. The dignity of danger, the honor of risk, and the necessity of resilience are part of becoming fully human. To rob children of their challenges is to rob them of their growth. The 12th and final rule is poetic. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. This rule is not literally about cats, though Peterson himself tells of walking through his neighborhood during a period of deep suffering, stopping to appreciate small moments of beauty like the presence of a cat. Life is filled with tragedy, illness, death, betrayal, loss. Pain is not optional. It is woven into existence. But within this suffering there are still moments of grace. Sunlight on your face, laughter with a friend, or the simple comfort of a pet. These moments do not erase pain, but they give you strength to endure it. Peterson's message is profound. When life overwhelms you, shrink your focus. Don't try to solve the immensity of suffering all at once. Instead, pause, breathe, and embrace the small joys that make the burden bearable. Petting a cat becomes a symbol for gratitude in the midst of chaos, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, fragments of light remain. And so, the 12 rules come together into a philosophy of life that is both deeply practical and psychologically profound. They remind us that order and chaos are always battling, that life is fragile but also full of potential, and that responsibility is the key to transformation. Peterson does not promise a life without suffering. He promises a life where suffering has meaning. Stand tall, care for yourself, choose good friends, compare only with your past self, discipline your children, order your house, pursue meaning, tell the truth, listen deeply, speak precisely, respect the necessity of risk, and cherish small joys. These rules are not rigid commands. They are guiding principles to help you live with courage, resilience, and purpose. And with that, we reach the end of this powerful journey through 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan B. Peterson. If you found value in these timeless lessons, don't just stop here. Start applying them in your daily life. Remember, transformation begins not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent actions. If you enjoyed this book summary and want to explore more wisdom from psychology, self-help, and philosophy, make sure you hit the like button, share this video with friends who need it, and subscribe to CS PsychoFacts for more life-changing insights every day. Until next time, stand tall, embrace meaning, and keep moving forward.